Welcome to the Jonathan Lovegrove podcast. I have a very special guest today, former governor of Arkansas, Asa Hutchinson. Thank you for joining me.
It's an honor to be with you today. You're right, I left the governorship in January of this year after 8 years, so hot on the campaign trail now.
That's awesome. And before the interview, I was looking back at your record. You have done quite a few positions and jobs. U.S. Attorney appointed by Reagan, representative in the U.S. House, then 2 positions in the Bush administration, governor of Arkansas, and now a candidate for president. So to start out, how does it feel to come through this whole journey and to launch a campaign?
Well, it's very exciting. And obviously, when you look at that career of public service that I've had, clearly I care about our country, I care about the state, I care about our freedoms, and that's what motivates me to run for president, is that with the experience that I've had, they fit really well, and importantly so, with the issues that we face as a nation, from border security. I've had experience with that. Drug enforcement and the fentanyl crisis that we had. I've had experience fighting those challenges. When you look at balancing the budget, I've been a governor. I balanced the budget for 8 years and created a surplus. I actually did that when I was in Congress as well. And so I understand the issues that we face, and my experience matches it, and that excites me, as well as just the passion that we need some changes in our country.
That's excellent. So you talked a bit about it, but your vision for the presidency. 2-part question. First, what should the U.S. role be in the international community? And then domestically, how do you think you could help America improve?
Well, first, the most important thing about a president of the United States is that a president should bring out the best of America. The best in terms of our freedoms, the best in terms of our character, the best in terms of our individual liberties. And so a president is about inspiration. It is about bringing out the best of America in what they give back even. And then you ask, though, about internationally, that I hope that the international community sees in the United States of America, under my leadership, the goodness of our country. We want them to see toughness, we want them to see strength, we also want them to see the goodness that we've been blessed with through God's providence, through history. And America is a good nation, and we want the world to see the goodness and the compassion, as well as the toughness and the principle that defines our country. So that's the international side. Obviously, I support Ukraine. I shouldn't say obviously. It's a divided, Republican Party on that issue. But I support Ukraine in their fight against Russia. And I know that China is watching, and we ought to make sure that we continue our support of Taiwan. Those are 2 areas, but man, you look at the threats from Iran, you look at what's happened in the Middle East, with Israel going in and attacking some of the areas to their north. This is a dangerous world, and so we need somebody with common sense, with somebody who's been experienced in times of crisis, and that can lead our country with strength.
So you just mentioned that support for Ukraine. When we talk about spending government assistance to Ukraine, where is the line of too much excess spending?
Well, we should always measure, and it's a fair debate as to how much we need to support them. But to put it in perspective, we've spent less than $100 billion in defense material going to Ukraine, whereas the last spending bill came out of Washington under this administration was $1.2 trillion. And so we're spending a lot domestically. I would argue we're spending too much, and so it's modest comparison with what we're getting in return, which is a more secure Europe, and also protecting us from having to go in to defend other nations in Europe if Ukraine is not successful. So it's very important that we're there. Obviously, you want to measure how much. We want to audit carefully and understand we've got to be able to protect our investment. Europe has also stepped up. And because of U.S. leadership, Europe is there, and they're, doing things they've never done before. And so I think it's important, and we want them to have success.
Mm-hmm. So in the intro, I mentioned that you served under Reagan and Bush. So you've seen the Republican Party throughout the years shift. Do you think the Republican Party needs correction? Has it lost its way?
I do. I do believe that. And when I say that, we've got to stop looking to the past. We don't need to debate the last election. We need to look to the future. And when you're looking at Gen Z, when you're looking at the young people and the new generation coming up, we better be about attracting those based upon our economic policy, the job opportunities, the individual freedom and liberty. This is what the Republican Party stands for, limited government and opportunity. And that's what our future is about, and that's what the Republican Party needs to focus on. So we have a lot to offer. People look to us for economic leadership, so why do we want to get sidetracked into debates about the last election or things that really don't solve problems in people's lives? So that's a course correction that I think we need. We need to get back to the party of optimism about our future and the great and America that leads again through strength. Those are the principles of our party, and sometimes I think we've veered from those.
Mm-hmm. You're running in the Republican primary. Some Republicans criticized a decision you made as governor where you vetoed a state law banning gender-affirming care. Do you want to defend that? And then to add on to that, federally, what role should the federal government have in those personal issues?
Well, first of all, I believe that God created two genders, and there should not be confusion on that point. But if a child has confusion on that issue, who's the right one to be engaging and guiding them? I believe it should be parents. And I think that's what conservatism defends. Now, obviously, there's a line that parents can cross, and so I would sign a bill that prohibited transgender surgery for minors. Absolutely, I would sign that. That's a line that shouldn't be crossed. But routine health care decisions are the most sensitive topics. I defend the rights of parents, and there should be a limited role that government plays. Because if you give government the power to regulate in that area, just think California is prohibiting, and New Jersey is prohibiting schools from sharing information with parents and requiring parents to use gender-affirming care. So I don't want the left side utilizing the forces of government to tell parents what to do, and I think it's appropriate that we defend the rights of parents across the board whenever it's talking about those sensitive issues.
So there may be some people watching who are hearing what you're saying, they like your vision, they like you as a candidate, but they look at the polls. Right now, 538 has you at a 1.3% average. So, simple question, how do you plan to rise to the top of the pack, beat candidates like Trump, DeSantis?
Well, and you just identified really the two that are higher in the poll numbers, and Trump is in a stratosphere by himself right now. He's high. DeSantis has struggled and has dropped. And then everybody else is in single digits. So there's a lot of company where we're trying to break out of that pack. And that's up to the voters. And so the voters in Iowa, and whenever you look at those poll numbers, my numbers in Iowa are better, my numbers in New Hampshire are better. And so that's where you put your focus to in those early states to move up the ladder. And it's also going to take, to change things, a recognition that Donald Trump is not the one that's going to lead us to victory in 2024. I'm concerned that the Republican Party will be gearing up for a massive loss up and down the ticket. In other words, congressional seats, Senate seats that we'd lose if we don't have the right head of the ticket. And if we have a leader that's more about revenge, then we're going to have problems winning in 2024. So if people recognize that, then those numbers are going to change.
Okay, so to end on a positive note, we're filming here at Bob Jones University. You're a 1972 graduate. Do you have any positive memories that you'd like to share?
Most of my memories are positive. I was really proud to be a Bob Jones graduate. And whenever you look at my time here, I majored in accounting. I met my wife, Susan, here, who's from Atlanta, Georgia, but she was going to school here. This is where, I fell in love with the law and decided to go to law school through the debate that we had here. So great memories here, learned a biblical worldview. I learned, I enhanced my interest in making a difference through my life. That's led me to start a Christian school, help start one, to start a Christian radio station in Bentonville, Bentonville's first FM radio station. So, the principles that you learn in life here at Bob Jones impact you for a lifetime.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us. Any last words for the American people?
Well, you actually mentioned internally the economy, and so that's important that we get that back on track and controlling federal spending. But I want everybody to know what my heart is, that I'm running for president because I think America is in trouble and needs to have a shift in direction. I can provide that through my experience. And then out of the heart flows the issues of life, and my heart is one that understands the importance of eternity, and that's where we're ultimately accountable. We make judgments that we can here on this earth, but we're ultimately accountable, and I think that's important for a leader to understand.
Well, thank you so much for your time, and thank you to everybody who's joined us online. We'll see you in the next episode of the Jonathan Lovegrove Podcast.